Hey, what's up, guys? Tugi here, back again with another episode of a Nation United Finland edition. And in the last episode, we fell short of accomplishing our goal of making it back to the Stanley Cup final for the third straight year. And really, not only did we fail that goal, we were embarrassed in the process, losing to the Columbus Blue Jackets in 5 games. And it has yet again brought this team to a crossroads where the answer as far as what to do, who stays, who goes, it's not exactly clear as far as what the right answer is and what I'm going to do. I wish I could say heading into this I had a game plan as far as, yes, I know exactly who I want to keep on this team, who's going, but I don't know. And it is going to be very, I'm trying to think of the right word here, but very much, these decisions are going to have to be made in the moment. Very spur of the moment team building here. But we'll see how it goes. The goal, of course, heading into next season is to get back to the Stanley Cup final. We still have a couple of seasons to go here in this series as St. Louis ends up winning the Cup. The series will more than likely continue until the middle of July, third week of July. Pretty much, once all the NHL free agency stuff is over and done with, I have the time to sit there and catch up with a bit of roster editing and all that stuff. So we still have a few seasons to go with this, and I'd like to think we're not going to have, as St. Louis beat Buffalo, and again you see Buffalo making it to a Cup final despite the fact that we took Luukkonen from them. I'd like to think that we have a team that is good enough to win the Cup, that we are still going to do so eventually. We've had, again, a very hit or miss as Aatu Raty wins the Cup. Yikes. We've had an up and down experience thus far, and that's been the case with a lot of these Nation series where there's either success or, frustratingly enough, very little success. I'd like to think we're going to be good enough to finally get over the finish line and win ourselves a cup. But 3 straight cups to the Western Conference. Anaheim, Calgary, and now St. Louis. Brock Boeser wins the Art Ross and the Hart. The Norris to Sergachev. Calder to McIntyre and Washington. The Conn Smythe to William Nylander. The Vezina to Matt Murray. Canoe. The Masterton, the Selke to Persaud. Boeser to Ted Lindsay. And the Rocket Richard as well. So a big season for Brock Boeser, but the Canucks not able to find success in the playoffs or postseason, also known as the postseason either. So the first step here is getting through the draft, and St. Louis has the number 1 pick after winning a Stanley Cup just because. The good thing is we have the 8th overall pick. The bad thing is, of course, as we know, it's not going to be a great draft for us. I am sent on a nearly daily basis screenshots on Twitter of people getting great Finns within franchise mode, and I'm just sitting here with my medium top 6s and my medium top 4 defensemen, and just expected to be happy about it. So, rough times for us. Very rough times for us. As Drew Doughty, Torrey Krug retired, Jake Gardiner retired as a free agent. And amongst the goaltenders, Anderson, Mrazek, and Laurent Brossoit, the top 2. So, we'll see what happens here at the draft. Again, no real set-in-stone plans or plan of any sort. We'll just see how it goes. That's gigantic, though, for the Blues to win the Cup and then get a top prospect. Unfortunately, again, it's another Swede that we won't be able to take. The top Finn is, on Central Scouting ranking 7th. Central Scouting has him 13th. So we'll be able to get Kari Viitanen. I'm not too excited about those attributes, though. I'll tell you that much. So, we have Viitanen available. Is there anybody else available to us? Hannu Asplund, who at least has a good shot, and Mika Haino, who is, again, it's just a whole bunch of average. And it's probably just for the best to trade down. Lassi Lahunen is okay, but for a medium 9, he's okay. We'll just sort by potential here and see if there's anybody, and there's not. There just isn't anybody. A low 6 gem I have no interest in drafting whatsoever. So even the thought of drafting Viitanen with that first pick, I'm almost thinking of using our picks to trade down to next year, because I don't know exactly who I want to potentially trade for now. If I knew all the players that I wanted to potentially target and the moves that I wanted to make, I'd go for it. But I don't know for sure exactly what's going to happen. And as it is, the thought of trading Luukkonen is there. He's on an expiring deal, so I mean, we'd have to sign him and then get rid of him. So it's not the worst idea in the world right now to maybe look at if there are any contracts we'd want to get rid of. And I mean, we have some players signed. I mean, Tervainen, Heikkila, and Juolevi. Again, we know that Juolevi and Heikkila are two of the top defensemen that we can possibly use. And if we look at Tommy Tervainen as well, he's 24, so he's not going to get much better, but he's not great by any stretch. I mean, he's a 20-point defenseman at best, the plus-minus. Last year was great, and the year before that was okay. This year was brutal. In the playoffs, he wasn't that bad, but you could argue whether or not he's worth $6 million. I mean, even if I change him to a two-way, it's not quite there from an offensive standpoint. And again, you need defensive D-men to really round things out, but is it worth paying $6 million per year for a defensive D-man? I don't know. The issue is Thomas Heikkila is also more of a defensive D-man. And Olli Juolevi, despite his attributes, is not a great offensive defenseman. So from a defensive standpoint, we really are screwed. And I mean, I could trade those three if I really wanted to. I mean, forward-wise as well. And you know what, here, the important thing I would say is, of course, St. Louis is going to make that pick, and that's fine. I want to look at overalls here. And it's going to be better to sort it by that way. So Peltonen has an expiring deal. Heinola has an expiring deal. We're going to need to free up some money, man. We really are. There's going to be a lot of changes to this roster. Mikko Rantanen needs a new contract. That's going to be ungodly expensive. Ludman is going to need a contract. How do we get out of this? I feel like this team is about to take a massive step backwards. It has to. We essentially have to blow this up, and then if we decide that we want to recoup Juolevi or Heikkila, we do it. But for the most part, this team's run is over, I think. It's pretty much over. So, quickly, because it would be the easiest player to find, let's see what we have in terms of goaltenders. If there's any other option, hello, Hakkarainen. If there's any other option, Juha Hakkarainen, he's gonna need a deal. We know who we sent to Florida with Laakso. I'm wondering if getting Hakkarainen's worth it. Would we rather bank on him rather than Laakso? I think that's pretty much the main decision here. So we have that dude, Hakkarainen in Arizona, and aside from that, do we have any other good Finnish goaltenders? Paulson won't be Finnish. No, he's Swedish, of course. Do we have anybody else? Baradziuk won't be available. Smits and Demko won't be available. And then in Florida, it's Jukka Laakso, who, of course, we drafted and traded to get Luukkonen. And Luukkonen hasn't been able to get it done. So we could make the deal for Laakso. He's a little bit cheaper. And of course, sign Luukkonen and then deal him. Of course, he's at max value. So, I mean, Laakso could be the guy, but we could honestly end up just getting stuck in a revolving door of constantly having to trade down to next year and just hoping that we end up getting some prospects, because right now we've seen two Finnish goaltenders, the one in Arizona and the one in Florida, or we stick with Luukkonen. And with how expensive Luukkonen's going to be, and with some of these forwards as well, I mean, we really have to choose just where we want this money to go. So, like I said, from the looks of it, I think this window is it's a little bit closed. At least the team in its current state, we have to blow this up a little bit. It's just what goaltender do we go for? And is someone like Hakkarainen going to be good enough? I am going to double-check his contract, because indeed he is the only other option, aside from who we already have, or Laakso, and he is just about to sign his first contract. The benefit here, too, is that he's a Western Conference team, or on a Western Conference team, and we wouldn't be sending any assets to the East with Laakso. So I'm not sure if Juha Hakkarainen is the guy. He was also a draft pick of ours. But we're going to look to recoup him. We're going to try to get him back. And we're going to hope that he's the guy for us, as insane as that is. And unfortunately, to get him, it's going to take probably Olli Juolevi, Heikkila, or a forward, which again, Rantanen can't be dealt right now. I really want to keep Simon Taival, but I'm so disappointed in what he's done. I mean, the hit-or-miss nature for him in the playoffs is really rough. Heikkila is not enough to get the deal done. I think we're going to deal Olli Juolevi, as insane as that is. For now, at least, so that we can secure the goaltender that we want. We know that we're going to we know now that if we do this, we're getting rid of Luukkonen, which we have to. There's just too much money tied up in these big-name players. So we'll trade down. They already have some of our draft picks. We'll just safety net this a little bit and see how close we are to a done deal. And we're a little bit too far off. 3 seconds is a little bit too far off as well. What about 2 seconds? And I didn't want the Arizona second. I obviously wanted a third, and then the bullshit glitch happens where you gotta hit over and then go back. Is the third still too much? Yes, it is. What about 2 seconds? Still didn't go through. 1 second. Still didn't go through. That really shows how much his value goes up if they don't want to trade him. But we're screwed cap-wise. So, ish. I mean, not totally, but still. Will that go through straight up? Jesus. I gotta give up Juolevi plus to get Hakkarainen, but it's worth it. It is worth it. So let's give up the 4th, see how close that is. Sweeten it just a touch. This game doesn't know what just a touch means. And as it is, we only have 2 first-round picks this year. Let's go with the 2 6th. All right. So Olli Juolevi's been dealt to Arizona. Do not be surprised if I get him back on half salary. I might have to. But we have picked up Hakkarainen, who will have to be signed as well, alongside Luukkonen. And then Luukkonen will be dealt, maybe even back to Arizona for Olli Juolevi. And in that way, too, we don't have to deal with Luukkonen being within the conference, let alone the division. Like Laakso is not. Well, in fairness, he's not, because we're a Metro team in this. Thomas Heikkila. I think to play it safe, we're also going to try to move on from him. You could argue Tiervainen is the smarter guy to move on from for now, and I wouldn't totally disagree. But I want to make sure that we have money available to bring back everybody that we're looking to bring back here, at least the key players, which at this point, again, I don't even know who the key players are. So if we wanted to move Heikkila, is there another player? So now see, here's the issue. For a goaltender, oh yeah, that's no problem. We just target this guy. But in terms of like an elite forward or just a skater who isn't on that crazy of a contract, is there anybody available that we don't have at this point outside of Olli Juolevi? Which, that trade obviously wouldn't make too much sense. We can get him back, just not now. Artukin's not going to be available. He's going to be Russian or Belarusian. Yeah, Russian. Let's see. Buffalo, Rasmus Dahlin, Aho, Stutzel, Schultz, Huskins. My God, O'Brien, Kasparaitis, Podkolzin. Nothing really there, but my God, Calgary's stacked. Carolina, nobody available for us there. Chicago, nobody available outside of Yoki Harju, who has a contract expiring. So, I mean, technically, that would save us a bit of money, which might not be the worst idea, so we'll keep him in mind in Chicago. Is there anybody else not looking good there in Colorado at all? Columbus, no big names available, so the one dude there in Colorado, or he was on Chicago, I should say, Henry Jokiharju, is probably our best option, at least that we've seen so far, unless we wanted to go after Pool Party, which, I mean, not for that money. If I could get him on a half salary, sure, but that's a pretty big if to get Jesse Puljujärvi on half salary. Because he's, I mean, geez, he did put up 96 points last year. You know, I just can't help but wonder. I just cannot help but wonder. If I give you Thomas Eikala, but you retain half salary on Puljujärvi, and I give you the draft picks that we don't even really need to use anyway, would this work? And from an Edmonton salary standpoint, it very well may not. Or it might. Hopefully. So, how much would I have to add to get this to go through? That's the real question, because we do have the 8th overall pick as well. And I could safety net that a little bit with the 2nd and a 3rd. Eikala on a 1st for Puljujärvi on half salary, a 2nd and a 3rd. Rejected. What about we take out the 3rd? Still rejected. What if we take out the 2nd but re-add the 3rd round pick? Your thoughts? Still rejected. What about straight up? That's not really surprising. What if we add the LA 2nd round pick next year? Still no. What about if we add that other 1st round pick of ours, 27th overall? Still no. Good Lord. Good Lord. What about if we add that 2nd round pick there? Still no. What about if we take that out? Is Puljujärvi worth 3 1st round picks? Probably not, but will that go through? It won't. So, yeah, Puljujärvi's basically out of the question, at least for the moment, as we continue along with this journey of just realizing how kind of screwed this team is. Again, Barkov and Eero Niemi are there, Heppo Niemi's there, but obviously, stupidly goddamn expensive. Stupidly expensive. Los Angeles with Verkunen, who is available though. The number 1 overall pick in 2023. Can we find a way to get Verkunen? Probably not, although he's a little bit more approachable than Puljujärvi for the fact that he doesn't have full trade value. I'd still want to get him on half salary. Because, I mean, you know, why the hell not? But it's whether or not we have the value for it. So let's see what we have here as we try to shuffle the deck chairs. If that goes through, I'm cool with it. And it didn't, because of course it didn't. Everyone's worth a goddamn small fortune. That's still not enough. My God. My God. Let me just double check this dude's stats as it is. The good thing is he's only 23. I mean, 50-point season, 80-point season. Heading into his 5th year. I mean, stat-wise, he's a beast. He could play center as well. Will that go through? Still not. We're not even close. We are not even close. But at least we know, you know, that there's someone to target there on LA. But, like I said, we just have so few options overall. And a lot of the options that we do, Kotkaniemi, I mean, they're just expensive in both contract and the amount of trade value that they have. Tolvanen's available. 6 years. That's rough. That is quite rough. I'm not too happy about it, but I still think that we play it safe. Because Nils Lundqvist was available. I'm not sure if he's Finnish or Swedish. I have my assumption. I think we still essentially like blow up this team, get draft picks back, and then kind of handpick who we want. Because otherwise, this is brutal. Even, again, Roddy's going to be expensive as hell. Stupidly expensive. Nobody wants to trade top players right now. And it's a disaster for us. Laine, of course, in Vancouver, who we had on this team before. Wasn't really working out too well for us. So yeah, we're pretty screwed. Even getting someone like Christian Vesalainen is going to be extremely expensive. And as it is, only has 2 years left. So, money-wise, again, we have some outrageous contracts coming up. including Ludman, who will at least be an RFA, Heinola, Peltonen, Rantanen, and of course the goaltender in Luukkonen. So I can't help but think of still dealing Hikola just to get back a couple of draft picks or something. Not as if St. Louis needs the help, but they do want to move draft picks. Not that they're worth anything. Oh boy. So here we go. 1 first, 2 firsts, a second, another first, and another second. St. Louis would have too many skaters. Of course you would. Okay. Tell you what. Let's back out of that really quickly. And I want to see who the top picks were in this draft. Yeah, good on you, St. Louis. He's only an 80, though, so it might be a weaker draft anyway. Well, we're going to trade down all of the picks that we do have for this draft. I don't really know what the hell, who the hell we're going to trade with. They're going to want to have to trade their pick next year and preferably be a Western team. So let's say we talk to Calgary. And 2029, first and a second. First and a second, and a first down the road. Your thoughts on that, Calgary? Rejected. Take out that second. So 3 firsts, a second, and a third. Your thoughts? Quite far off. Great. Take that. 2 firsts, a second, and a third for 2 firsts and a 7th. I'll take that. We at least get out of this year's draft. I mean, Olli Levy is the immediate casualty as he's dealt to Arizona. We pick up who is likely to be our goalie for the future, as I think Luukkonen's just going to be way too expensive, and we'll try to move on from him. As, again, like he's gotten us to 2 cup finals, but he hasn't been able to get it done. So what we'll do is we will send out these initial offers now. In fairness, Luukkonen isn't even really looking for as much money as I thought he would have been. Let's go like 9.25 over 8 years. See if that works. Hakkarainen as an RFA. We should still sign him to 3 years. We wouldn't want to stunt the development, so we'll bring that down to like, then again, the true 85% trick might work. We'll bring that down to 3.4. Husso, Vevalainen, and Korpisalo I'm not worried about. Defenseman, Peltonen I'll ignore for now because he's an RFA. So Heinola is going to need a deal. And we'll try to go 5.5 over 8 years for him. And again, everybody else we'll ignore. And then forward-wise, Mikko Rantanen wants a 5-year deal and a shit ton of money. We'll probably have to bump up to $11 million per, which you could argue he's worth it. Ludman will ignore for now. I don't know who else I'm bringing back out of that group. We'll figure that out. So we at least sent those initial early offers to people who may accept. Time will tell. And we'll move on to the re-sign phase. Shitload of scout contracts to worry about. Rantanen signed, Hakkarainen signed, Luukkonen signed, Heinola rejected. So 3 out of 4. That's not really a bad way to start now, is it? And we'll see. So we have $20 million in space left again. For now, Husso, Vevalainen, and Korpisalo, I'm just going to let them go. They're likely to come back. Defensively, Heinola. Let's go 5 years, $6 million per. Peltonen will avoid for now. Tiervainen, I plan on bringing back. We'll try to go like 2.2 over 3 years, and then all of these other guys who are just the consistent filler on this team, we'll let them walk again for now, and they're likely to come back. Oh, God. Rasmus Kupari is too valuable to just let walk, unfortunately. So we'll see if 3.5 is enough for him. I think same thing for Kasper Bjorkqvist. He's just a little bit too valuable to let walk for nothing. And again, Louis. And then let's see. So Lamala this year was pretty damn good as a random free agent signing. I mean, 29 points isn't bad. I guess it's just depending on how much he wants. And the answer is a decent amount. Antti Suomala sucked for us. Teemu Vikola was okay. Guess it really depends on how much he wants, and the answer is a little bit more than I was hoping. Otto Koivula was okay, but still the money I'm going to hold off. And again, there are no real prospects in the mix there. So we might have to let people go to free agency as RFA. So be it to get all of this done. Kapari and basically, wow, one player. One accepted a contract out of all of that. Okay, that's just lovely. That's a nightmare. Alright, screw it. Let's try to get these done. So, Ludman. I'll bring up the old calculator here for the 85% trick, which won't work in full, but we can do the majority of it. So, let's see if we can get him down to like 7.9 over the next 6 years. Peltonen, of course, we'll bring back. And we should be able to get him for, let's go like 4.6, hopefully. And Samu Louis. What are we going to be able to even drop this down to? I genuinely don't know. Basically 1.9 if we're lucky. So we'll see what happens with the RFAs for the moment. Funny enough, the players that we elected not to draft might end up being the players I have to end up relying on. Peltonen rejected because of course he did. That's just great. As this team continues to just find itself in such a rough spot. We need to re-sign Peltonen, and honestly, the way we're looking at it, I mean, we're going to be letting everybody else go. Everyone else is going to the free agent list, and we'll figure it out from there. Peltonen, Jesus Christ. You know what? I don't even care. Just go. Screw it. Qualifying offer, and you can go to free agency. You go ahead. You test the market, buddy. You go ahead. Don't mind me. You just go ahead and test the market. I might have just outright released him. I don't even know. I felt like I hit qualifying offer. Maybe I hit release player. To be honest, at this point, I don't care. I'm going to hire the scouts on the first day here. I'm going to let all of them go intentionally just to make sure we have the highest rated scouts, as if it matters. And we're going to take a look at the money situation, where we have 13 players under contract and no goddamn money. Okay, Peltonen is an RFA. Good. So, comes down to Luukkonen, who's 29. 9.2 is a great deal for him. It really is. And I mean, regular season dominance over the past 4 years. He had that one off year. The postseason, I mean, this year was brutal, but I'm not sure entirely what I want to do with them. You know, we do have the option to trade Hakkarainen if we want to. Honestly, I thought the Luukkonen deal was going to be worse. But, I mean, the time is now to make that decision. Is it going to be Luukkonen or is it going to be Hakkarainen? Defensively, I mean, we have fucking two people signed, and Piernez. And then forward-wise is where a lot of the big money comes in. $11 million for Rantanen, $11.7 for Kakko. I mean, the best, like, legitimately the best option is to blow this up, you know, select a handful of players that we actually want to keep, and then go out and actually trade for all of those kind of low potential guys that we elected to not draft. It's pretty much the best way to do it. I mean, Luukkonen is still one of the highest value and the top rated goaltender in the league, which isn't surprising. He is an absolute beast. I mean, we have Hakkarainen now, so we kind of control who we have. Of course, we let go of Jukka Laakso. There's no real way to get Laakso back outside of using draft picks. And of course, that was the initial risk anyway, trading him to Florida, but the hope was that, oh, okay, well, we'll win a cup and we won't have to worry about the fact that he went to Florida because we would have been fine. We got the defender that we needed at the time, and that just didn't work. So, I mean, yeah, value-wise, it's one or the other. We're rolling with Luukkonen or we're rolling with Hakkarainen. and the other will obviously go. I know we have $16.3 million in space, and we'll try to make the most of it. Defensively, in terms of available options, let's see who we have. We have Olli Levy, who we dealt to Arizona. And I mean, again, you've seen the attributes. He's 30. You've seen the numbers that he puts up. I mean, again, he's not a big offensive defenseman. You can argue, of course, the importance of a two-way / someone who's more defensive. But, I don't know. Is he the guy to bring back? And, of course, we've been over this before as far as the distinct lack of top-notch defensemen that we have at our disposal in this series. It's pretty bad. Of course, Thomas Heikkila is still on this team, but the argument is there whether or not he should be dealt as well. Rasmus Ristolainen's now 33 years old. He is not the answer. I mean, maybe he is if we can get him back on retained salary. But I don't know. It's like, do we go? Even now, he's not putting up points. That's the thing. Like we've had Juolevi, we've had Heikkila, we've had Ristolainen, and we haven't been able to get it done with any of them. So as much as they are the best options that we have, maybe we look elsewhere. We haven't had Miro Heiskanen yet. And I mean, he's typically a 20-point guy around the same level, but he did have a 36-point season 2 years ago. He's one of the few guys that we haven't tried using yet. Maybe we go after Miro Heiskanen. Henri Jokiharju as well. I mean, he's 29. If we could get Chicago to retain a little bit of salary, that would be great. But again, he is not a major point getter on the back end. So in a way, it would be shuffling the deck chairs. You know, you bring in Jokiharju and Heiskanen instead of having Olli Levy and Heikkila. That's pretty much what we're looking at here, as it's taking much longer to get to the next Finnish defenseman. I mean, Nudivar is 34. He's been on and off this team. We know he's not the answer. Tommy Tervainen, I mean, don't really think he's the answer either at this point. Julius Honka is 32. So again, probably not the answer. But I mean, in terms of a lateral move, you know, make a deal with Dallas, bring in Heikkila, or bring in Heiskanen and Honka. That very well could be done. Ville Heinola, who of course we just let walk to free agency because he was being outrageous, but he's a defensive D-man, so it's not really a major loss. You see the issue here. I can't help but think that even if it means, you know, it's a low-value dude, as Yusuf Alamaki is another option. And again, 20 points, 30 at best. Kind of just shuffling the deck chairs, get another player where we don't quite know how they're going to do with this team, but they are an option. I think, like I said, I think we just have to tear it down. You know, make our select few, and then even then, in terms of prospects, I mean, okay, so there you go. You have 19-year-old Kari Ramo, who was a first-round pick of the Rangers. That's the type of guy to target. At this point, that's the only thing I can see. Trade down, get somebody like that, get draft picks back, and then if there's nobody available for us in terms of the draft picks, we just trade down the next year. Urho Vakanainen, very similar to Jokiharju, and, I mean, the point total, again, isn't great. Unfortunately, a lot of these Finnish defensemen didn't really develop, and for those that did, it's not really looking too good, is it? So I want your opinion on it, because this offseason is going to consist of at least the 2 episodes here, because there's just, I mean, like I said, I don't know. Like, Olli Mata is just kind of a shuffling move. Maybe we do just blow this up. Esa Lindell, as a veteran at this point, has a kind of rough contract, and again, not a consistent point producer on defense. And if we're not going to have people who are putting up points, then, you know, I'm not exactly willing to pay them the big money. Matty Virtanen, again, 25-point guy, so not too bad for $3.8 million. I'd rather pay Virtanen $3.8 million than pay Olli Levy what we were paying him. So maybe we look to get Virtanen back from Detroit. Kari Viitanen, who was in this draft, I believe. He's an option on the Bruins. I think that's what we look to do. We trade down, we get younger, we look to restock for the future that lies ahead. And I mean, in terms of forwards, again, there will be similar players to that who we saw on defense, but the issue is we need to pick who we're staying with, and I want to help leave that decision up to you guys. So for the goaltenders, it's simple: Luukkonen or Hakkarainen. And again, if we're getting younger, Hakkarainen seems like the guy. So I think Luukkonen's time here is done. Defensively, pretty much it's just, do we move on from Tervainen because of how much he's making, and Peltonen, and Heikkila? I mean, he's young enough, but again, he is pretty much a defensive defenseman. Just how much, and the funny thing is, man, I think the answer is just that we go for it. I think we move on from Rantanen. We move on potentially from... Okay, that's at least where I want your decision. I think it's obvious. We move on from Luukkonen. He's just a little bit too old. We hope Hakkarainen's the guy. Defensively, I think Heikkila and Tervainen are making too much money. And then Peltonen, we'll see if we can get him under contract. And in terms of forwards, Rantanen's going to go. And it'll be up to you guys as far as what we do with Kakko and Simon Taival. Lambert and Louis will be joining Ludman as the leaders of this team moving forward. But I want your opinion on what we do with Kaapo Kakko, who's 27 years old at this point. And I mean, in terms of point production, close to a 90-point guy, sometimes just a 60-point guy. Let me know what you think. $11 million for next season. And then Simon Taival, who, big fan of, but again, sometimes hit or miss. And in the playoffs, as it turns out, very hit or miss. So let me know what you think. And, I mean, it kind of sucks that it took, half an hour to 40 minutes to come to the conclusion that, yeah, we're kind of fucked. But we are. We're pretty screwed. To the point now where I think the best thing to do is, for the most part, tear it down, get younger, and just hope that there are some players available in the draft in the next few years. So we'll look to trade our established guys for prospects. It's just a matter of who stays and who goes. And we're going to have some rough seasons ahead, I think, from the looks of it.